Welcome to Session 6, Cultivating a Healthy Marriage, Part 2. I'm glad you're back this week. Sometimes I wonder, after we first talking about cultivating a healthy marriage in Session 5, if half of you are just going to run screaming from the building and go, oh my gosh, I can't do that! But I'm glad that you're back, because God's got a plan for you, and He's got a plan for your marriage. And I want you to hear it, and I want you so much to trust God. I know words like submission can be really hard to hear, especially if you're in a marriage where you are completely and totally struggling just to look at your husband some days. Can I just share with you, without being disrespectful to my husband, that I so understand. I so completely understand. It's not easy. But that's why we're not called to be submissive in our own strength and with our own level of human love. We can't. We just can't. Ask God to show you that way. And see, that's where that agape love came out. We talked about being filled by that agape love, that we're supposed to use that. And because we submit to Christ for being so, because we're just so thankful and overwhelmed that He would die for us when we were just miserable sinners, that we take that same feeling that overwhelms us with the realization that, oh my gosh, He did that for us. And we take that whole love and we're to pour it out in submission to our husbands. Now, if you read over the session material, you know that we're going to talk about a process today. The process involves submission, respect, forgiveness, intimacy. And that whole process is the process of creating love for ourselves within our marriage. And I know it seems odd, because we as women, we feel love in a certain way. You know, give us the love that we need and we'll be okay, right? But it doesn't work that way in a marriage, unfortunately. I've come to believe that there are certain things that we kind of have to go through before we can actually feel the love that's coming towards us. That often we don't recognize it for what it is, because we're still hung up in a couple of areas. So that's why we talk about this process. I want you to feel love in your marriage. And God wants you to feel love in your marriage. But He can't if you're not, you can't, and He can't help you understand what that love is if you're not willing to submit to His authority and the authority He's placed over you and your husband. And if you're not willing to offer respect to the man that He has placed in authority over you, and if you're not willing to forgive the mistakes that that human has made, and if you're not willing to develop intimacy, either physically or emotionally, then you're not going to be able to feel that love that's coming your way. So this is why the process starts with you, all right? Because we're trying to clear that all out for you so that you can get a good sense of what it is. So, first things first. It starts with you because you are uniquely qualified in this role. His co-workers can't fulfill this purpose for him. His friends can't fulfill this purpose for him. You were chosen out of the billions of women who walk the face of this earth. You were chosen for your husband because you were uniquely created to complete him. And you may not feel that right now, and that's okay. That's okay. Just have to trust God, walk by faith into something you may not see yet, but that's what faith is all about, right? So walk by faith in this with me, okay? Take a chance on God, not on me, but on God, and ask God what He's got planned for you in your marriage. First things first is that submission. You've got to submit to your husbands. You can't have the marriage of your dreams without it. I'm convinced of this. I'm convinced. But submission doesn't necessarily mean what I think the world wants us to think it means. It means things like before we decide to go out and buy a whole new set of furniture for our living room, that we stop and say, hey, I want to get some new furniture. What do you think? And if your husband says no, we can't afford it, or it's not a good time, or I like what we have, you don't shut down, pout, whine. You continue talking, and not to convince him, but to find out what his thinking is, and share your thinking, and then yes, let him ultimately make the decision. Now, I know probably in the past there's been times when your husband has made a decision that you didn't agree with, and it blew up in his face, and you're thinking, well, see, I knew I was right. Submission is about forgetting about that and trying again. Because one of the purposes of submission is to help your husband learn to be the leader he needs to be for the wife he's married to and the family he has. If we keep trying to take over, we're taking that away from him. So that's part of our submission. We need to encourage our husbands to do the leading. And through that, asking permission and allowing them to make decisions. It doesn't mean that we keep ourselves quiet. Doesn't mean we don't say what our opinions are and offer our advice. But it means we allow them to make the ultimate decision. That, in turn, leads us into the respect. Now, we talk, too, a lot that men feel love when they feel respected. And that's one of the biggest conveyors of love to them is respect. And you've probably seen it in your husband where they have felt disrespected, whether from you or somebody else, and they've gotten really, really angry. And we might look at that and go, whatever, and it doesn't have the same impact for us. But for them, it truly is painful in terms of love when they feel disrespected. So we can offer them respect in several ways. And I shared a couple with you in our session notes, but generally it's this. It's understanding that, one, they have a huge responsibility as being the leader of the family. Huge. Whether or not they're taking on that role yet doesn't mean the responsibility is not still there. And chances are they're not taking on that role because they're terrified, right? So that's part of our submission, is to help them learn to take it on in baby steps. And our respect to them is understanding that it's a big role. Those of you who are single parents, you know what I'm talking about. It's a big role to be responsible for all the bills, all the cleaning, all the maintenance, all of everything, right? So we are to respect our husbands for taking on the responsibilities they do. And again, if you're with a husband right now who takes on no responsibilities, don't complain, don't argue, don't nag. Start asking permission, start asking their opinion, and they will soon start taking some things on. Okay, just pray about it. But that's one of the ways we offer our husbands respect. We need to remember too that they are a breadwinner, if not the sole breadwinner in our families. And that has its own issues to deal with. You know, if you have a dual income family, if he loses his job, he is totally blown it for his family. Totally. And men feel more responsibility for their families than women do. Not that we don't feel responsibility, but they feel it deeply. If they cannot provide for their family, it hurts them more than us. I can't explain it. I've just seen it. It devastates them. So we need to remember that they are a breadwinner of the family and offer them respect. Yes, you may work too. And that's not to mean that you shouldn't be respected as well. But we're not talking about making your husband do something for you. We're talking about you and your husband, right? So pray that your husband will open up and see that you need to be respected too. But in the meantime, offer him the example by respecting him. Okay? And then 3, we need to realize that they have job issues too. We may be at home or in a workplace and have a whole bunch of yucky days and have a mess of a day and have a horrible day. And when they come home, we want to just throw it all up over them and let them take it all off our hands and let them deal with it. Okay? So when they come home and they have a really bad day and want to just throw it all up on you and let you take care of it, what do? See, that's offering respect too. So often we want them to do things for us, and then when they want us to do things for them, we kind of say, I don't have time. That's so disrespectful. Really and truly. It's time to stand up for the respect for our husbands. And I'm sorry, ladies. I am so sorry if you at the moment are struggling with your marriage and you're like, respect my husband, forget that. Can I just ask you to step aside for a minute and just trust God? Just trust God in this. And we're submitting to His authority. We're submitting to God and giving Him control over our lives, which includes our marriages. And if His word says, and it does, that we are to respect our husbands, we need to trust that there's a reason for it, even if we can't see it and don't feel it right now. But chances are, if you're having a difficult time in trying to respect your husband, there's probably some bitterness sitting in your house somewhere. And that bitterness is probably dealt with the fact that you have not forgiven your husband for something, or some things, or a major thing, or a bunch of little things that you've let build up. It's time to let it go. It is time to let go of whatever hurts your husband has conveyed to you. I have been hurt. It's not easy. My husband has hurt me. But you know what? I can either choose to carry that around and wear myself out and be angry and bitter and attitude, or I can choose to let go of it, ask God to heal me, show me my role in that, help me do what needs to be done so that it doesn't happen again, or at least that I am wiser about it when it happens again, and let God deal with my husband and let him convict my husband. See, the same can be with your husband. If you're holding on to hurt, you're trying to punish your husband. Who are you? Who are you to wreak a punishment on your husband? I don't mean disrespect to you ladies. I really don't. What I'm trying to say is, it's God who is in judgment, not us. It is God who, excuse me, is there to make sure somebody changes or grows as a consequence. It's not up to us. Our job is to pray. Our job is to ask for strength to be what we're supposed to be in that particular situation. And sometimes it's not what we want to be at all. But I have learned, and I hope you have learned that by now, that God's way is better. Even if I don't actually understand exactly every step at the moment, it will work out. That's part of our faith. But when we're talking about forgiveness, we have a part in stuff. You know, our husbands don't just hurt us for no reason. Now, I'm not saying you're a cause of anything, all right? And if you have had an abusive relationship, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting angry because your husband forgot to take out the garbage. We're talking about getting angry because your husband stayed out all night instead of coming home like he was supposed to, and he was gambling with his buddies or whatever. We're not talking about a husband who beats on you or abuses drugs and alcohol, and we're not talking about that, all right? If that's your situation, I pray that you will get some help, that you will get some help. But when we have issues in our homes, in our marriages, chances are there's some things going on with us that I don't want to say allowed it to happen, but has somehow it's been open to being able to happen because of something going on with us too. And I think I've got 3 categories that we kind of tend to fall into. One is maybe we were too controlling. We were like, nope, can't do this, nope, can't do this, nope, can't do this, nope, 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 nope. And we were like, I'm going to give you a temper tantrum if you do this, and we're just using our behaviors, our bodies, and whatever else we can to control our husbands. That can lead to some issues. Okay, then we've also got, maybe we've not built up enough boundaries and let our husbands get away with everything. We've been an enabler. We've been a doormat. We haven't stood up for ourselves, and we need to build some boundaries. That's part of this issue of forgiveness too. And last, maybe we need to offer some more attention to our husbands. Have we been too self-absorbed, too child-absorbed, too home-absorbed, too others-absorbed, too work-absorbed? Have we been focused on everybody else but our husbands? Chances are our husband may have been acting out, right? So once we've done this forgiveness, then it's easier to build the intimacy. And ladies, I hear one of the biggest complaints is, my husband wants to be physically intimate and I just do not feel like it. Well, it's time to start feeling like it. I know that's a tough word to say, but you know what? Physical intimacy is a big part of respect and submission and forgiveness in a marriage. It really is. Now, I will offer suggestions, and as always, please pray. Please pray and ask God's wisdom. I am a human. I am a fallible human. These are my experiences in my own life, but I have learned that physical intimacy is a big part of a marriage. If you don't feel good about yourself, though, chances are having a physically intimate relationship is really difficult. What is it about you that keeps you from being open with your husband physically? Are you just feeling too tired at the end of the day? Change your day so you're not so tired. Are you feeling gross about your body? What do you need to do to not feel so gross about your body? Do you not like yourself? What is it about yourself you don't like? This is why we start with you. At the very beginning of this class, we've got to really work on ourselves because it blocks our physical intimacy. And if we have any, bitterness or resentment, it's much harder. But you know what? It's time to turn that table. It can be fun. It may not always be the most rewarding experience, but it can be fun. Plan for it. Be creative in it. Talk to your husband about it. Say, hey, what do you like? This is what I like. What can we figure this out? It's kind of an uncomfortable conversation, isn't it, sometimes? But you know what? Who else can we talk about this stuff with but our husband? I mean, really. We kind of laugh it off, but really, right? But another way to develop that desire for physical intimacy is to develop the emotional intimacy. I shared with you in the session notes that I was not a golfer. I certainly didn't know much about mixed martial arts and football. Oh, please. Really? But when I gave that up and I said, okay, I'll learn golf and tell me about this mixed martial arts thing and what are we going to do about football? And I kind of incorporated it into something we could do together. Whole doors opened. We spend Sundays now fully loaded with appetizers and hanging out, and it's a blast. I may not always understand what's going on at football, but it's fun. I play golf. I'm not very good at it, but I do. I try. You know, these are things, and as a result, I have built an intimacy with my husband on a different level. I see him in a different way. We are partners. We are friends. And I think so often that role gets completely destroyed, right? So this is important. This is really important. Ladies, if you hear anything, hear this. Pray about your marriage. Pray that God helps you fulfill your role in your marriage the way He created you to fulfill it. Ask Him to remove all the uckiness out of your marriage that you've brought into it, whether by attitude, by design, by not forgiving, whatever. Ask Him to bring it all out and let you deal with it and get it all out of the way. And then ask Him to give you the strength to promote intimacy, to promote respect, to promote submission. Ask for God for a revolution within your heart for your husband. Don't be afraid. I can guarantee you that losing the anger and everything else will make all the difference in the world. Ladies, I pray that this has fulfilled you and energized you and given you a place to start. Thank you so much for listening.